Hi, I'm Ivy Griffin, licensed mental health therapist, clinical supervisor, and founder and director of Thrive Therapy and Counseling based in Sacramento, and we provide services to folks all throughout California. At Thrive, we specialize in working with highly sensitive people. And today I want to talk about an experience that can be all too common for HSPs or highly sensitive people. And that is when our emotions feel like they're just too big, where we feel taken over and consumed by a feeling. And sometimes this is so frustrating because we know it's happening and we know our reaction is out of proportion to the situation, and yet it doesn't make it stop, right? The feeling's still there. We still have to live with it. It's still working its way through our bodies. And yet, just like you, I wish I could make it stop during these times. I wish I could slam on the brakes and just go back to being my regular, pretty easygoing self. And yet, like, we can't always control our emotions to that degree as humans, but particularly as sensitive people with very sensitive nervous systems. So if we have to accept that, like, yes, sometimes our emotions are going to be big and vibrant, how do we take care of ourselves? What do we do? How do we get through these times and survive and not let our feelings just wreak havoc in our lives in the meantime? So, my top 6 tips for this are: one, name what's happening. There's really a lot of power in just naming and acknowledging what's occurring. It takes the mystery out of the situation. You can even come up with your own name for something, like, oh, irritable Ivy is at it again. Or you can give it an image like a big tornado that's coming in and about to touch down. Or you can just name it as, okay, this is one of those really hard moments for me. Tip number 2 is really try to accept it and make space to let the emotion out. Now, remember, accepting doesn't mean that you have to like it or that you have to agree with it. You're just acknowledging that this is an experience that you're having, right? And then you're finding your way to let the emotion out. It's totally fine to cry, even if that crying is like full blown sobbing. Sometimes that's where I end up. It's also okay to just like curl up under a cozy blanket, even a weighted blanket, grab your cat or your dog and just pet and cuddle with them for a little bit. Um, Anything that feels soothing. You can even use visualizations like imagining that you're stomping on the problem as you walk along, or having affirmations, where you just interrupt the repetitive thoughts that go with this emotion and tell yourself, that this is really hard, but you're giving the feeling space and you're taking care of yourself. Right. So, whatever format you need to let the feeling out, giving yourself some way to process it in a way that you choose at a time that works for you. Tip number 3, don't try to reason your way out of it. When the feelings are this big, there's just not a lot of rationality to them. Believe me, this comes from experience that I've tried a lot of times to convince myself not to feel this way or not to have that reaction, and I've just never found it to work. So, tip number 4 is try to hold on to the knowledge from all your past experiences that this feeling will pass. It really will. You just have to wait it out. And the waiting it out is the really hard part, but you know that it has never continued for the rest of your life, and that won't happen this time either. So you can repeat affirmations like, this too shall pass. I've been here before and it won't last forever. I can get through this. You can do deep breathing exercises, anything like square breathing or full belly breathing, just whatever you need to do to wait out what's happening, hopefully in a healthy way. Tip number 5, don't make any big decisions when you're having these kind of emotions, right? Even though it may feel really true in that moment, you're not in a grounded place. Your rational brain is pretty offline when this is happening. So don't make any big decisions or life changes in these moments. Tip number 6, Know that you're going to need to bounce through different strategies for a while, right? You might need to go back to doing some deep breathing, to journaling, to just naming that this is happening again. And you may have to do these on repeat for a while until the feeling eventually does pass, you know? So I wish I could give you a list to just make the emotional overwhelm stop, but for sensitive people, I just don't think that's realistic. We are likely to experience these times when our emotions are just bigger than we are. And so instead of judging ourselves or blaming ourselves that something's wrong with us, we can just acknowledge that these feelings are part of our sensitivity and try to remember that there's a lot of upsides to that sensitivity as well. And accept that this is who we are, this is how we function, and we will get through it. And we can lean into our coping skills and our support system in the meantime to help us. So, thanks for listening. And I just wish all of you out there lots of healing and peace for your sensitive souls. Take care.